What's going on, guys? Steven Madek, aka Mr. Clutch, on the Moving Forward podcast. And today I'm going to be talking about my recent acquisition in Arizona and my recent move over to Arizona. In this podcast, I'm going to be talking about the pros and also I'm going to be talking about the cons that I've been going through this past couple of weeks, I should say. It's been a whirlwind. There's been a lot of ups and downs and a lot of new things that I'm actually learning. I think it's all a really great experience kind of doing this and really getting myself out there. A lot of people asked me beforehand, was like, are you going to send somebody out there or are you going to go ahead and go there yourself? And I spoke to a mentor, I spoke to a coach, and he told me that when he opened up another location, he went out there and did the first location himself. And I thought that was a really good idea. The reason why is because I wanted to make sure I understood the experience on what to do and some of the things that were going to happen instead of just sending out a manager and just trying to open up the location on their own. So when I first went out there, I wanted to make sure that I studied everything in all the situations that kind of come up. So on the next location, I'll have my manager know exactly what to do and kind of how to coach him from there. And I also want to note that I wouldn't send out or have anybody on my team to do something that I wouldn't do, because getting up, from where you live and moving over to another state and managing different people and connecting with different types of people is hard. So I wanted to make sure that I did it as a leader, and I wanted to make sure that I understood how the process works. So let's get straight into it. So I've been living in Arizona now for the past 3 weeks to a month, and it's definitely been different. Let's go ahead and first start off with some of the people in the town that I noticed a difference. So first and foremost, living in the Bay Area, living in California, it's totally different. There's so much more people here in the Bay Area in San Francisco. You've got 5 major counties that you can drive to an hour apart. And there's tons of people. I believe there's, like 4 or 5 million, 5 million people, residents that live in the Bay Area. In Tucson, which is, I believe, Pima County, and then you have another county, which is Pinal County. There's only, I believe, 1.3 million people that live there. So the town is very, very small and very tight niche. One of the first things that I really understood and I realized that working in a small town is that the traditional marketing sources that I was using here in the Bay Area was not as effective there in Tucson. So there's 2 major companies there in Tucson, which are national companies. You've got 2 Men in a Truck, and then you've got All My Sons Moving, and they are the hometown dominators there in that area. So trying to get a footprint there is pretty hard because they have about 2,000 reviews for All My Sons, and 2 Men in a Truck, they have about, I believe, 900 reviews on Google. And, coming in there, acquiring the business, I probably only had 5 reviews. Now the company has about 50 reviews. So trying to battle with them and trying to keep up with their ad spend is not going to work. So what I really understood and, plan to do is that I have to shake hands and grow relationships with everybody in the community. Here in the Bay Area, in order for me to get jobs and get business, all I had to do was put out a simple ad on Yelp, on Google, on Craigslist, and I would get calls. But here, I have Google and I have Google local services, and I'm sending out postcards, and I'm not getting the traction that I thought I was going to be getting. Well, mind you that I'm also doing it in the winter, but kind of comparing the 2 locations, the Bay Area has a lot of calls that are coming in versus Tucson. So the calls that I am getting for Tucson, they're shoppers, and I pretty much think that since that All My Sons and 2 Men in a Truck are the top companies with the most reviews, I'm pretty sure they're getting a lot of the bigger jobs. And some of the jobs that I just recently landed were actually from postcards. And the reason why I think they were from postcards, I think we booked a $10,000 job and also a $5,000 job, and then also another $5,000 job from a referral from the initial clients that the company already had. The reason why I think that we were able to book those jobs was because it was more of a personal connection with those jobs that I booked. The postcards that I'm sending out has a picture of my face, and it shows me as a person. And when I come out and do the on-site estimate, they were surprised that I was actually the person that came out of there and do it. So that was one of the first major takeaways that I understood that I had to kind of change up there. So what did I do about that? I went ahead and kind of changed my marketing process, which was, okay, let's put more focus on, number one, getting out there with the community. So first thing I did was I joined a BNI chapter. Okay. Second thing that I did was I'm working with a marketing company that basically introduces you to the top real estate firms in the area. So I'm paying for that so I could get in there, shake hands, do a lunch and learn presentation, and really understand how the marketing works. What I did and what I've been doing with all the initial clients is that I went ahead and I made sure to ask them, what are the typical marketing sources that you guys are using? I did that with designers. I did that with, one realtor, and I did it with another contractor. And a lot of them say that the way that you get business is through referrals. So, that really stuck with me because now I have to think of like, okay, what's a really good way to get referrals? Number one, of course, you do good business, right? But how do I tap into the market of the customers that are already, being referred to All My Sons and 2 Men in a Truck and things of that sort? So the way that I really thought about it was that I'm going to have to get in with the community. So, being exposed to the community, whether it's, Facebook ads and joining all these groups. So I joined BNI. I plan to join the Tucson Realtor Association, and then probably joining the Rotary. And I looked into it, and there's not any moving companies there that's actually doing it. A lot of the companies that are in that area have been doing business for over 25 years. And the company that I acquired has been there for over 27 years. So, really building the relationships is something that's going to be very, very vital and very key in order for the success of the company. Because right now the company only has interior designers. And then I'm going to go ahead and just get straight into that as well too. The second thing that I really noticed about, the customer base here in Tucson is that they're very, very, very price sensitive. Now, what I understood about the demographic about Tucson is that, you're very, very wealthy, which is, Oro Valley, Saddlebrook, and the higher end areas where houses are, above $1 million. Here in the Bay Area, that's basically like, a very small 900 square foot house. But in Tucson, $1 million is a ginormous house. And then you have the demographic where it's not as wealthy. I believe the average wage in the not so nice areas, I should say, is about $30,000 to $40,000. But mind you, the cost of living and everything else like that is a lot less. So $30,000, you may be able to live, a pretty good life there in Tucson. So, kind of navigating through the customer base is different. So I want to market in a higher end area, like here in the Bay Area. I know exactly which places to target, and I know which places to stay away from. And not to say that some places are, some lower end places are still going to move with us, but, I want to target the higher end so there's not as much problems. So, with that being said, I'm still just kind of shotgunning everything to all the clients and to all the marketing sources to see which areas are good. But, now I'm putting a real focus on the higher end area. Now, with the interior designers that we currently have, they're very, very price sensitive as well too. The interior designers here in the Bay Area, we can really just charge really anything. And that's all honesty, but we have integrity, so we're charging the right going prices. But they care more about service here in the Bay Area because you're dealing in multi-million-dollar places and people have money. in the Bay Area. I'm not saying that they don't have money in Tucson, but it's more apparent here in the Bay Area. So in Tucson, the customers or the designers are very price sensitive. And, when I went over the pricing structure with the designers and I seen what type of pricing was being charged, I was in shock. I was really, really in shock, because now that I kind of uncover everything and I really dug deep in the financials and seeing what was happening on the back end, the business that I acquired, the prices were way too low. And the company was really only surviving based off of the storage that was being generated. Now, the deliveries that the previous owner was doing, I think she was losing money on all the deliveries, or she was breaking even, just based on how far it was and how far the deliveries were. So there was really no money that she was making in the deliveries. All the money that was being generated and profited was all from the storage. And the reason why that there was so much profit in the storage was because there was so much space for so little per square foot. Give you some perspective. The perspective is, here in the Bay Area, we have a 7,000, with warehouse space, I believe it's 6,000 to 7,000 square feet. We're paying about $9,000. Okay. There in Tucson, we have 20,000 square feet with, I believe, 22 high ceilings, and we're paying the same price, $9,000. So, that warehouse is filled, not as much as we have it here in the Bay Area, but it's filled enough to be able to be profitable, and it's filled enough to be able to support the expenses. Now, when I went ahead and increased the prices, I gave all of the customers and all of the clients, an update saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and raise all the prices or increase the prices on November 1st. And I personally called every single one of the designers, and I made a personal connection. And I said, hey, look, we're under new management now. And, my goal here is to build on the foundation that's already been here. And in order for us to build the foundation and update the processes, there's going to be a bit of a price change. And the response that I got was a mix, right? So let's go ahead and start off with the good part. So a lot of the designers that I came to find out, were very, they weren't happy with the type of service that was being given. The reason why they were not happy was because the technology. There was no technology, and there was no correct form of communication with the designers and the company. So whenever something would come in, there's only one person to speak to, and it was not streamlined. There was just so many ups and hiccups and things like that. And designers were not knowing exactly what their inventory was, and they didn't know when something was going to come in or things like that. So those designers, they're very, very happy about the processes that we're going to go ahead and implement, which was being able to, have streamlined communication was the first thing. And then also to know the inventory that they have, so they don't have to keep calling back and forth, because designers, they have so much stuff they have to take care of on the front end, and we're just a little piece of their whole project that they have going on. So when I told them the price increase, they said, that's fine. We've increased our prices as well too. We don't know how she was able to charge that amount and still be able to be in business. Now, the business owner in the past, she was a baby boomer, and she paid off all of her bills, a year in advance, which I find crazy. And I find that very, very great, because that put me in a really good position to be able to make the company very profitable. Now, I know, based on all the bills and everything like that, I have like about 6-7 months that I don't have to pay for insurances, workers' comp, etc. So that put me in a really, really good position. Thank God for her doing that. But, I was not able to really see that because of the financial part, which was, if the bills were being charged on a monthly basis, I took a look at the P&L, And if the bills are being charged on a monthly basis, and the revenue was coming in, I would see right then and there that the company wasn't as profitable as I thought it was going to be. So that was a little hiccup and a little learning lesson that I will take a look at next time. I did look at the past financials, but the insurance has kind of changed year over year, and this year, which is 2023, all the insurance has increased. So I wasn't able to see that because year 2022, 2021, insurance were less. And then, with the inflation and, so many things along those lines, the insurance went up. And what she did was she went ahead and paid that in advance. And I was not able to see that on the P&L. So that was one of the things. Next, kind of going back on the designers that were upset. The designers that were upset were the designers that I would not want to work with at all. They were just not happy with the change, and they were just so focused on paying the old prices, and they were so unhappy about us raising the prices. And they talked about, going over to another place, and, we don't want to do that. And, I had a level with a lot of them, because I had asked them, I had spoken to one designer, and I really had to open her eyes because she was so fixated on paying $120 on a damn delivery. And I had to tell her, look, the past owner that was delivering these items was losing money on your deliveries. You're going about 50 miles out from our actual location. You're sending 2 guys, and the delivery, mind you, only takes about 30 minutes. But you got 2 guys, they have to load the stuff in the morning, which is an hour, and you're just saying average $20 per mover. Call it 22 because of workers' comp. Okay, that's 2 hour, 1 hour, and then you have another hour driving there, and then another hour driving back. So right off the bat, that's 40 times 3. You're at 120, right? Not to mention the gas. That's another 30, 40 bucks. And then, not to mention, what else? Well, the wear and tear on the trucks. So, those were conversations that I really had to get down with these designers, because they didn't understand how I was taking a look at the picture. It was not going to be run as, the way I look at it, it was being ran, and it was basically the prices that were being charged were prices that were relevant in 2020, or I'm sorry, 2012, 2014, with inflation and everything like that. It was just impossible to stay in business if those prices were going to be charged. So, I gave all the designers and the clients, hey, this is what we're going to be charging, and this is what we're going to be charging on November 1st. Now, a lot of them still decided to move forward with us because we are the only company, I'd probably say there's 1 or 2 more, but the only other company in that area that, number 1, has a warehouse, number 2, provides that service, and then number 3, has a loading dock. The loading dock is required by all these tractor trailers to be able to deliver the items that come in for the designers. So, we kind of, the designers almost have their hands tied. So, it's a thing where it's like, we're not trying to go crazy and upcharge like crazy, but, we have to be able to make a profit, because I want to take care of the guys that that are working, and that's been there for a long time. So, that was the second thing that I really, really noticed, because all of the pricing and, all of the demographic was totally different, and they're very, very price sensitive. Now, the third thing that was a huge thing that really caught my attention was now taking over the company and taking over with the current employees that the company had. So, in short, I took it over with about 4 employees, and then the guy that was there for the longest, he was very unhappy with the changes that we were going ahead and doing, because he was so used to the old way that the old owner was treating them. And these guys were basically handheld like no other. What I realized was that they were doing absolutely nothing. They were getting paid for hours in the warehouse when they were just sitting around, not really doing anything. And now that I kind of look back at it, it was, she was in the process of trying to sell this thing for about, I don't know, for about a year or 2 years. And when I kind of take a look at everything as a whole, I almost feel like she had to do that in order for a buyer to come along and actually see value in the company, which is totally fine. Because the remaining employees that are there, great employees, but she just didn't have the set systems and processes to keep them busy, or to cut their hours, or do things like that. She didn't really do any of that. The employee that left, he was there for the longest. I identified him as the manager, and I tried to put some managerial task on his plate, but he came to realize that it wasn't for him, and we had a falling out, when in reality he could have just spoke to me and let me know that it just wasn't up to his par. But I wanted to keep him because he knew how everything was in the warehouse, and it just didn't work out. And I promoted past one of the employees that was there for 7 months. He's great. He actually used to be a manager, or a top mover for 2 Men and Truck. So he was perfect for the position, and he's there running the location in the warehouse right now. In reality, before I add all the moving jobs and everything like that, right now, the winter time, the location really only needs one person to be able to run the whole system, or the whole location. So we're running tight, we're running lean, especially coming into the wintertime. But next week, which is going to be the first week of December, we got a really busy residential schedule. So I'm very excited for that. But that was, one of the things that I had to learn and understand, that when you acquire a company and you're acquiring the employees, a lot of the employees that the company has is not going to be accustomed to the change, right? They're just so used to being the old ways, and they don't want to go ahead and change to the new ways, because the new ways that I was bringing in was, we're going to do more tech stuff. We're going to do things that are going to streamline the processes, so we all don't have to do extra work. When we took over the company had all paperwork. Nothing was, in a drive. Nothing was in a cloud or anything like that. Piece of paper, and that's it. Everything was written down. Even the phone book, there was no phone book. I looked at some of the old paperwork, and all the paperwork, or all the numbers, had a phone book, and the checks were still being written out on a checkbook, and it blew my mind, right? So which is crazy, but also it's good, because I was able to input all the processes that we have here. Now, kind of looking at everything at the grand scheme of things, would I go back and buy this company again? The answer to that question is yes. Now, when I'm looking at everything, and I'm looking at the infrastructure, I'm looking at what the company came with, the trucks, the pallet racks, the warehouse, the employees, I think that I got a really good deal on it. Really, really good deal. Unbeatable deal, because the sellers were wanting to retire. Okay. And when I look at the market of Tucson, it's a huge open market. What I'm going to do, and what I'm going to bring, is I'm going to bring the marketing, I'm going to bring the branding that we're really going to have. And, the other companies, which is 2 Men and Truck and All My Sons, I know that they have a really big call center, and I don't know exactly how they're being ran, but, my goal, and what I'm going to do that's going to be very successful, is I'm going to get into the community, and I'm going to have a business development representative that's going to work every single one of the relationships to grow the company. There's a lot of potential. And in Arizona, there's a lot of long distance moving, because, in Tucson, it's so far away from everything. You got Phoenix, that's, all the way up north. about I don't know, about 150 miles maybe, and then you got the border. So everything is pretty much going to go. The moves that we booked was going about 100 miles, so they're pretty much all long distance moves. So that's where I see a lot of the possibility and a lot of the growth that's going to happen. Mind you, we haven't even done SEO yet. We haven't, got our reviews to about 400 or 500. So once we get all of that going, I know that the location is going to be, up and going. Now, what I foresee and forecast is that location will probably do in that first year, year over year, will probably do a little bit over $1 million, because just raising the prices of what the company already had, because the companies are doing about, $500,000, just raising the prices by 20%, 20, 30%, we're going to shoot up to about 700, 800,000. Now, I'm going on the lower side because I'm going to go ahead and add some, I'm going to add the marketing. I'm going to add I added the Google local services. So I'll add another $400,000 in revenue from whatever it's already doing. So 700 plus 300 to 400,000 from the marketing that I'm doing. Do over $1 million, over $1 million. And that'll be good. So that's what I foresee and forecast. Now, taking a step back and now really looking at my location, my flagship location here in the Bay Area. What are some things that happened, right? What are some pros and cons that happened while I was gone? So one pro right off of the bat that I seen, which really amazed me, and that I was very nervous about, was how was the location going to run without me? And I was scared about it because, it's like you raise a baby, you raise a child, and you basically say, you're grown now, go do your own thing. And what happened was the location ran extremely well without me. It ran even better without me. Here's what happened. Here's exactly what happened. My managers, they all stepped up. Okay. They all understood about the vision and the goal that we were having as a company, right? So for every person that gets onboarded onto my company, we have a training system, basically a training system. And one of the first videos that they have to watch is the vision and the goal for the company. And I talk about opening up 50 locations by the year 2030. So it really sank in with me when they all stepped up and everybody just really put their best foot forward and really made sure the location ran extremely well. Maybe it ran well or more better because I wasn't here, but from the looks of everything ran extremely well. I was really happy about it. And then the second thing that it did and opened my eyes to was the processes that I had to put in place in order to have the location running extremely smooth and extremely profitable. So the processes and making sure that, I didn't have to be there, opened my eyes when I left. So, building those processes and really understanding what needs to be set in place so I don't have to be there. And the third thing that happened that really amazed me was, the continued growth from my sales team and my sales department, right? I don't go into as many meetings as I was going into, and really dialing in on the daily meetings that I was having, my daily call with my sales team, my KPI meetings and everything like that. I come to find out that the business is running without me. And we have the set KPIs and structures to be able to say, hey, look, if this number's not hit, there's something wrong. And to touch on that, the KPIs that I put out were pretty spot on, because when I took a look at the KPIs and I said, hey, this is off. What's going on there? This is off. What's going on there? So I was able to identify very quickly on a weekly basis on what was going on or what was, happening. And, I set up the meetings to basically have a meeting once a week with all my key management staff. So, we were able to touch basis on the things that were happening, there. So those are the pros that I was so happy to see. Some of the cons. Some of the cons that, that I seen was, um, a lot of things slip through the cracks. There's so much stuff that's going on that I was able to catch because I wasn't necessarily in the day to day, that, kind of slips through the cracks. And also, accountability, accountability and just having that presence and that energy there in the office is totally different, right? When you're gone, because there's a different type of energy that the owner brings to the office. So, those are some of the main things that I've seen that happened as I kind of stepped out. Now, now that we talked about the pros and cons of this location, talk about some of the forecasts that we see for this location. I'm really surprised to see that the revenues that we're doing in November and then also December, it's amazing, right? It's very, very amazing because I know last year I was struggling during this time, very, very, very hard, struggling to, make my payments, struggling to, lay off a lot of staff. But, what happened this year was I was able to have the biggest back office that I've ever had during the wintertime and also in history. Typically during this time, I will kind of cut down some of my admins, and I'll cut down some of their hours because, there's not much stuff for them to do because we wouldn't have that much jobs here on the front end. But what I'm really seeing is that we're staying busy, we're staying consistent. A lot of the marketing that we've been doing has been paying off, right? All of our email campaigns have been paying off. We're touching a huge demographic of people that would not typically move with us are now moving with us because we have like returning customers, right? Returning customers over the years are starting to pay off and come back during the slow time. So all that's helping out. All the relationships that we have with all the realtors, that's all helping out. And one of the main things that's helped out significantly is our interior designers. Now, interior designers are busy during the end of the year. Now, a service for interior designers is an affluential service because only typically people that have money to spend on furniture and spend money on a service are using interior designers, right? So what does that mean? That means that the people that buy the furniture are typically using it for a tax write-off, and the people that are using an interior designer are redesigning their house for the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas. So that's keeping us busy during this time, which is great because it helps with cash flow. I don't have to take out a line of credit or anything along those lines of keeping the guys busy. So that's for both locations. Now, what I foresee in 2025, I see huge growth. I see huge growth because we were able to grow. Okay, take a step back. This is going to be our biggest year ever. Our biggest year ever during the hardest year ever for moving companies. I know a lot of moving companies that went out of business. I know a lot of moving companies that were struggling. For us, because we put in the work, we put in the relationships, we put in all the marketing that we spent in the years, they're all starting to finally pay off. So, what do I see for the upcoming year? I see a $4.5 to $5 million year, right? And that's just for this location. Now, with other location, we're probably going to be at about, I don't know, $1 million too. So you combine those two together, hopefully we'll be at about $5.5 to $6 million. And really want to develop, and I'm really going to put in a business development representative because I see how much that's helped during the slow time, and during the hard years. If it wasn't for all the relationships that we had with all the realtors and, the relationships that I built, this year wouldn't be as great. So I really want to put in a business development representative here in the Bay Area location. And I'm going to put in another BDR in Tucson /estimator because, we want to grow those relationships. So those are some of the things that I foresee. And, those are some of the things that we're going to put out before we have our, that I see that we're going to put out in 2025. And I'm going to go ahead and announce in our end of the year meeting. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And that's my whole rundown on the whole acquisition and the whole experience that I've been having. Now, it's only been the first month. I'm sure I'm gonna have another one second month, third month, sixth month, and I'm keeping you guys updated. There you have it. That's another episode on the Moving Forward podcast. See you on the next one.